I can finally fire a loser like you. You're incompetent trash and you're fired. I was helplessly forced to resign, tormented by a boss who twisted her beauty into something devilish as she laughed. My name is Michael. I work for a subcontracting company for a publishing house, struggling through another packed schedule today. I don't get hospitalized anymore, but as a kid, I had frequent asthma attacks and couldn't let go of my inhaler. During attacks at night, I couldn't lie down to sleep without endless coughing and breathing difficulties, so I just propped up some pillows and pretended to sleep. There was no rest for me. As a child, I would plaintively tell my mom, "Mom, it's too hard to sleep." Despite it being a usual attack, my mom would patiently stay by my side. "That stuff, Michael. I'll read you a book until you can fall asleep." She would pull all kinds of books from my dad's study and read them to me. Old picture books, encyclopedias about animals and space, and sometimes novels that were too hard for a grade schooler. Thanks to that, even though I was terrible at physical education, I excelled in other subjects. Those sleepless nights weren't just about suffering for me. My dad was an avid book collector and would happily listen to my eager book reviews. "Michael, you're great for an elementary schooler. If you like Mark Twain, try reading Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway is long. Well, maybe by the time you're in middle school, I'm looking forward to it." My dad passed away when I was in the 6th grade due to pancreatic cancer. It was too late when we realized it. Life became harder, and I spent my 3 years of middle school watching my mom work hard every day. "I went to work after middle school," I said. Mom replied, "Don't be silly. You're smart like your dad. I'll make sure you can go to college." But I didn't want to burden her anymore. So, we compromised that I would work after high school. During those tough times, we decided to sell most of Dad's books. It was sad to see the empty bookshelves, but letting go of the books didn't erase the memories with my parents. During high school, I worked part-time jobs non-stop to help my mom. I was pretty proud to be able to buy my own phone with my earnings. But my inherited love for books from my dad always got the better of me, and I'd often find myself about to buy interesting new releases at the bookstore. Hardcover novels are kind of expensive. Not something a high schooler with just an allowance could afford many of. When that happened, I'd reserve them at the local library. I might have to wait a bit for new releases, but hey, reading for free is awesome. One day, while making my regular library trips during breaks from work, I noticed this guy who was always there at the same time, reading the newspaper in the same spot. He dressed casually but had this unique sense of cleanliness with his crisply ironed slacks. He seemed about the age my dad would be if he were still alive. Our eyes met once when I was looking at him. He was a friendly man and struck up a conversation. "You come here often, don't you? Borrowed any new books?" "Yeah, you're always reading the newspaper. Don't you read books?" He told me it was his morning routine to read the newspaper and then a novel. Not many kids at school read print media, and my mom is so busy that we often miss each other. I was thrilled to finally have someone to share my love of reading with. He was really surprised to find out I was still in high school. "You're quite mature and quick-witted." I was impressed. "Aren't you young to be reading that book?" Turns out, he had already checked out the new mystery novel I just borrowed and was happy to discuss it with me. It was super interesting. It's by a new author, but I bet it'll win an award. Our conversations reminded me of the times with my dad, and he seemed to enjoy our book talks, treating me like a younger buddy with a shared interest. This continued until I graduated high school. Back then, I dreamed of working at a prestigious publishing house, but job hunting was tough. The big publishing houses I admired prioritized educational background for fresh graduates and exceptional experience for mid-career hires. We didn't have the savings for me to go to college. I sent out countless resumes and shared my passion, but kept getting rejected. It felt like a personal denial after a while. Frustrating and disheartening. I wanted to be an editor, supporting authors and helping bring more exciting stuff into the world, but reality was harsh. Sometimes passion alone isn't enough. Finally, I broadened my search and met Thomas, the CEO of my current company. A small subcontracting company where even the CEO gets involved in interviews. But the CEO was a humble and good person. He took pity on me after my numerous rejections and offered a trial period, with the promise of a full-time position if things went well. It wasn't exactly the dream, but having a decent salary helped ease our family's financial strain. Mom doesn't have to cram in as much work now and even put on a little weight. Thomas occasionally brings snacks to interact with the employees. Michael, how are you settling in? Our print shop is small and busy, right? No way, I love it. I've always wanted to work with bugs. A colleague repeatedly said, Michael is really doing a great job. His work is meticulous, and it's nice to have a good kid like him around. Thomas seemed pleased with the way things were going at the workplace. It was a physically and mentally demanding job, but all my colleagues were nice people, and I thought I was lucky to have such a good workplace. But back then, I had no idea what was coming. 4 years after I joined a company, Thomas brought someone he wanted everyone to meet, his own daughter, Rachel. She was a beautiful lady, dressed in a navy blouse and a lace pencil skirt, looking every bit the capable office worker. She just graduated from college. I may sound like a doting father, but she's my daughter. I'm sure she'll do great here too. But don't hold back just because she's the boss's daughter. Everyone, please be nice to her. Rachel bowed gracefully. I look forward to learning from all of you. Rachel was quick to pick up the work and delivered much faster than required by her clients, boosting her performance rapidly. My colleagues joked, she's really good at her job. At this rate, she'll outpace us soon. And true enough, she became a manager in no time. After Rachel became a manager, Thomas seemed completely reassured and stopped coming to the workplace. That's when Rachel started showing her true colors. Sometimes she'd scold her subordinates, saying, "Why are the deadlines always late? Don't tell me you're slacking off under the guise of external meetings." Other times she'd harshly criticize, "Who made this estimate? I'll redo it. If you can't handle it, don't add unnecessary work." The workplace atmosphere grew progressively worse. One by one, my colleagues who had fought alongside me for 4 years left, and before I knew it, I was the only one who knew Rachel from her early days. The team have completely changed. They were all kind-hearted and diligent people, capable of better treatment elsewhere. I went to work each day trying my best not to show the gloominess I felt inside. Once, Rachel pointed out to me, saying, "You look so gloomy. You're bringing down the mood." Since then, I've been desperately trying to stay on her good side to avoid becoming a target of her bullying. Clients started to worry, asking, "Michael, are you okay? You seem to have lost a lot of weight," and giving me puzzled looks when the number of accounts I managed suddenly decreased. The workload, which was already heavy, started to weigh down on both me and Rachel. Even as people left, the work didn't decrease. Driven to keep Rachel out of my mind, I started working with intense determination. And finally, I reached the top in sales performance. As I was dragging my exhausted body home one day, Rachel called me in. "Michael, can I have a word with you?" What could it be? Had I made a mistake at work? I had been so careful not to upset Rachel recently. I can't think of any reason for being called in. With an uneasy feeling, I went to see her, only to be told, "You know, I wouldn't mind dating you." Incredibly, I'm being confessed to by Rachel. I can't make sense of it. What? I mean, I'm willing to date you. You're always looking at me, and you talk to me more than any other employees. I thought maybe it's time I reciprocated. Her attention was because she was difficult to deal with, and my talking to her was to keep the peace, not because I liked her. Was she not aware of how much her juniors feared her? If you date me, even someone with a low educational background like you could climb up the career ladder. Aren't you lucky? I heard about your struggles in a single-parent household, and how you barely got into this company thanks to my father's kindness. On the other hand, I became a manager soon after joining an elite. Honestly, someone like me is too good for you. I couldn't believe she was saying this to someone she was considering dating. I thought she might be playing hard to get, but I can't find her even remotely cute. I firmly declined. Rachel, when did I ever say I liked you? Well, that's the impression you gave with your behavior. I just want to get along with everyone at work as colleagues. I've never seen you as a romantic interest. Sorry if I gave you the wrong idea. Rachel was frozen, clearly not expecting to be turned down. It's awkward to reject someone you don't like. Anyway, see you at work tomorrow. I hurriedly left the office, eager to escape the awkward situation. From the next day, Rachel's excessive harassment began. Once, when I returned from an outside meeting, I found my desk completely soaked in water. The fabric of my chair was even stained. It was hot outside, wasn't it? I made it cooler for you. Really, what is she, a high school girl? On another day, the estimate I had finally completed was missing from my computer, and the sample of the magazine we were supposed to deliver was found in the shredder. I suspected Rachel's doing, but there was no proof. I worked all night to finish everything and managed to deliver just in time. Rachel said, "So you've finally delivered. Incompetent people really have it tough. Be sure to thank the lenient client." She taunted me insincerely. Moreover, she kept piling on overtime work, saying, "Since you can't do your job like others, can you work a bit more? You're stealing a salary, aren't you?" Ever since the day of her confession, it was clear that I was her target for harassment. Perhaps thanks to that, her treatment of other employees, like saying "good job, I'll take it from here," seemed to improve somewhat. Thinking that my sacrifice was protecting my juniors, just as my colleagues who had left asked me to, made it more bearable. However, the office girls, scared by her previous behavior, flinched even at normal words of encouragement. One of them bowed apologetically to me and left the room. Seeing this, Rachel clicked her tongue at me. Whether underperforming or overperforming, I was always subjected to her sarcasm, and the overall sales performance was declining. Even if Rachel and I were doing well, it wouldn't sustain the company. I wondered if it was time to report her behavior to the CEO. Then, one day, an even bigger problem arose. Our printing company had two major clients. One was a major women's magazine, Apple Sapling Publishing. The other was the prestigious William Buckstaw, known for its serious publications. I got a furious call from Apple Sapling saying, "The magazine we were supposed to receive still hasn't arrived." Put Michael on the phone. Somehow, I was listed as the responsible person. I had no recollection of taking on such a task, but after their insistence, I had to apologize. I apologized profusely for a mistake I didn't remember making. But they ended the contract, saying, "We will not be doing any business with your company in the future." How did things end up like this? Feeling empty, I was heading back to my desk when Rachel stopped me. Rachel twisted her beauty into a sinister smile. "You've really done something terrible, haven't you? Ruining such a big contract. You're not fit for this company." "I don't understand what you're saying." "Don't understand. There's no place for you in this company anymore." Rachel seemed to be enjoying herself way too much. Now I understand. This whole thing was her doing. But I don't have any evidence right now to accuse Rachel of her misdeeds. She went to such lengths, causing trouble for another company. just to corner me. I can finally fire a loser like you. Incompetent trash like you are fired. I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm just too tired. Fed up with everything, I decided to resign. After submitting my resignation, I spent my days lazing around at home for the first time in a while. My mom, noticing my weight loss, kept trying to feed me more, and I had to be careful not to gain too much weight. It seems she used the money I sent to restore my father's book collection, and the book shelves were lively again. Reading while drinking in my dad's chair during the day felt like a luxury. The Ernest Hemingway books, which seemed long when I was in elementary school, now had a deeper flavor. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it, thinking it was a scam, but it kept calling day after day, so I finally answered. It was Rachel. You finally picked up. Michael, listen. Rachel sounded exhausted even over the phone. She explained why she called. Apparently, the chairman of the last major contract we had threatened to cut ties if I left. If we lost that contract, the company would go bankrupt, so she wanted me to come back. Who are you, Michael? I had no idea you had such connections with major clients. I didn't understand it myself. I was reluctant to go back to the company I had quit, but I hadn't properly said goodbye to Thomas and my juniors, so I reluctantly went with some gifts. After greeting my juniors, I headed to the reception room. There I found Thomas, Rachel, and, to my surprise, that old man from my high school days. Michael, this is Chairman William, the chairman of William Bookstore, who we always rely on. You seem to know each other. William, now revealed as the chairman, was as cheerful as ever. It's been a while, hasn't it, Michael? I think it's been 5 years since we last met face to face. William, you seem well too. I had no idea you were the chairman of William Bookstore. Well, I never mentioned it. I just wanted to be friends with you as a fellow book lover. As you get older, and more important, it's hard to make new friends. Rachel looked astonished at my familiar interaction with the chairman. Why would someone like you know William? She seemed to want to say that. Thomas joined the conversation. Michael, as you might have heard from Rachel, William values you highly. He even said he would terminate the contract if you aren't the point of contact. Would you consider coming back to our company? We really need you. Thomas lowered his head. William also inquired why I suddenly left. Does Thomas not know about Rachel's misdeeds? I'm flattered by your offer, but did anyone tell you why I resigned? I heard from Rachel it was for personal reasons. Your mother is unwell, right? I understand it's a difficult time, but what do you think? It's all fabricated. Any small sense of obligation I had left was gone. The reason I resigned was because I couldn't tolerate Rachel's misdeeds. You're unaware of her usual behavior, aren't you? Everyone's been enduring it, but many have been driven to resignation. The recent Apple sapling publishing incident was blamed on me, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I really can't think of returning. Rachel spoke gently. Michael, please stop making accusations. The incident the other day was resolved thanks to you apologizing to the client. I understand you're upset about ruining the deal with a major client, but Thomas and William looked confused. I felt helpless, unable to prove Rachel's misbehavior. Then, there was a knock on the door. Their office girl, who had been victimized by Rachel, entered. She placed a voice recorder on the table and played it. The recording was of Rachel's shrill voice berating her subordinates. How long are you going to dawdle? If you can't do your job, I'll fire you. If you don't like how I do things, then you should just resign. What do you think you are? A lowly educated poor person? Rachel turned pale. The girl continued. This is how Rachel usually behaves. Actually, all of us who were victimized were gathering evidence to accuse her, but these past few months, Michael has been protecting us from Rachel. Even Michael was forced to leave in such an unfair way. It's absurd that Rachel remains unapologetic and has the audacity to summon Michael back. Thomas couldn't hide his surprise at the numerous pieces of evidence. I was amazed that the juniors had united and planned such a thing. It seemed that my complaints had finally been acknowledged as true. I'm glad you understand, but I have no intention of returning to the company. The CEO genuinely apologized. Michael, I'm truly sorry for not stopping my daughter's rampage and for all the trouble until now. What should I say to apologize to the employees who left? That's when William spoke up. By the way, Michael, have you decided on your next job? If not, how about working as an editor at our company? William mentioned that among all the similar subcontractors, he chose to work with our company because of my work performance. I never imagined I would be invited to work at a major publishing house, a dream of mine, in such a circumstance. He had been investigating who was behind the precise support his staff praised, and soon realized it was the boy he had interacted with at the library. The chairman remembered that the books we had excitedly discussed back then had become bestsellers, and he had been asking his employees to keep an eye out for my next bestseller predictions. He was now confident in my judgment. Ever since then, you've had talent and character. That's why everyone wants to help you. My employees were also worried about you. They were looking forward to when you would enter their industry, not knowing you were going through such a tough time. If you come to us, I think you'll be able to work more enjoyably than here, don't you? Hearing William's high regard for me, Rachel burst into tears like a little girl. Enjoyable work. Work isn't supposed to be fun. I have to be the best as the CEO's daughter, always surrounded by enemies. Even though I advanced faster and produced results more than anyone, no one appreciates me. It's so unfair. Why is it always Michael who is loved? Thomas, as a father, gently patted his daughter's back. Rachel, I may not have the right to say this after leaving you in charge of the field at such a young age, but listen. It's not just about achieving results. How you achieve them matters. If you can't cherish those around you, no one will cherish you. And there were never enemies from the start. Rachel's past behavior was inexcusable. The pain caused to colleagues who left because of her. The numerous losses inflicted upon the company. But was Rachel the only one at fault? I spoke my thoughts to Rachel. Rachel, I still can forgive you, but I know when you were a newcomer, you worked harder than anyone and became a manager. You're an incredible person. That's why I'm sorry I couldn't admonish you as a subordinate. It's too late now, but I really wanted to be closer to you. Rachel, unable to speak, sobbed and after calming down, admitted all her wrongdoings and sincerely apologized. I'm truly sorry for everything I've done. Honestly, I wanted to be loved by you, too. A month after this conversation, I'm being rigorously trained in editing by William himself. I'm back to busy days, but as William said, it's much more enjoyable than before. Chairman William, knowing me from the past, used a quote from some book. Not all those who lack money are talented, but it's true that many talented people don't have money. I find it enjoyable to find and support such people. Soon after, I was able to bring 2 bestsellers into the world. They were books I proudly completed in collaboration with the authors, working hand in hand. The company I left reportedly went bankrupt. Thomas is using his savings to apologize to Rachel's victims. Rachel is starting from scratch in a completely unrelated company, helping with the family finances. I hope she faces her actions. While having coffee with the chairman, I quietly reflected. Despite everything that's happened, I think I've overcome my past for who I am today. I'm that happy to have my dream come true. The chairman replied with his usual cheerful smile. Don't talk as if you've burned out. You're just starting. You rookie editor. Today marks my final day on the job. I'm wrapping up my service as a crew member on a tourist sleeper train. It's because I've hit retirement age at 60. There were tough times after joining this company right out of junior high, but before I knew it, I had put in the years all the way to 60. I want to give myself some credit for that. Sorry to keep you waiting, Catherine. The one relaxing in the guest room is Catherine, the owner of a long-standing inn. I bring her some Earl Grey as a welcome drink. It's part of the job. I've included fresh lemons and delicious milk from the big mountains, taking care to allow her the choice depending on her mood. Oh, thank you as always. She looks over with her back straight, dressed nicely. Her every move is nothing special, but her grace befits the owner of a historic inn. It's not just her features that are beautiful. There's a sort of dignity about her, something that can't be chalked up to mere appearance. One couldn't carry a nice dress like that without it. It seems her mood today is for lemony. She squeezes a lemon and cleans her fingers with a napkin. If you'll excuse me. As usual, I bow politely and leave the guest room. Having regulars like Catherine certainly lifts the spirits. But the thought that today is the last time fills me with sadness. I gaze out at the scenery of the mountains in the train window, trying to imprint it in my memory. A rush of emotions wells up, and my vision blurs with tears. No, I mustn't. I'm still on duty. I straighten up and continue down the corridor. It was tough to walk through a moving train when I started, but I've spent more time here than in my own room, and now I could do it with my eyes closed. I make my way to the next guest room, familiar with every inch of these carriages. Excuse me. Ah, it's you. The sight of me makes him twist his face and sigh. He's Bob. He was the former head of this sleeper train. This is the first time I've seen him since he retired and became a pensioner last year. Looking closely, behind him are his wife, Susan, and their 2 daughters of age. What a way to ruin a birthday trip. Having a high school dropout like Alex in charge makes even the good food taste bad. Bob's contempt hasn't changed at all since the old days. To think he'd treat me this way even after becoming a customer and retiring. What a piece of work. I almost let out a sigh, but I hold it in when Susan stands up and comes over. Hey, cut it out with the rude comments. Sorry about this, Alex. Even with Susan's admonishment, Bob's expression remains unchanged. It's disheartening, but he's a customer now. I must treat him with respect. Bob, I've brought you Earl Grey, if you'd like to have it. Bob turns away, refusing to take it, so Susan takes it with an apologetic look. I'm really sorry. Well, I'll be on my way then. What a misfortune to have Bob as a passenger on my last day of work. As I was closing the door, he said out loud just to taunt me, "It's sad that a high school dropout like you ends up just a regular worker until retirement, unlike me." I'm taken aback by his words. Did he come on this train today just to harass me on my last day of work? The thought makes my anger grow. He has done customer service before, so he should know how it feels to be treated with such disrespect by a client. If he's doing this on purpose, what a nasty person he must be. Don't say things like that anymore. It's rude. Cut it out. Susan steps in again to defend me, but Bob just snorts. But it's the truth. Unlike you, I was chosen for the Special Employee Award. Our company has a system where those with excellent performance are recognized at retirement. If you get the award, you receive a larger retirement bonus. Bob was recognized at his retirement, and I remember him boasting loudly about it to everyone on his last day. Sure, I never got promoted, but I didn't envy him for his award. Even if I told him that, he'd probably think I was just being sour. While thinking all this, I quietly closed the door. Each time I visited the department head's family room to explain the tourist spots, Susan was the one who dealt with it. Thank you for all the help you gave my husband until last year. No, we're the ones who should be thanking you. But to be honest, I don't remember being much helped at all. Bob, who had been sulking in silence, seized the opportunity to chime in. "That's right, Susan. It was me who took care of him. When this guy started, he couldn't even do the simplest tasks that a kid could do, and I had a tough time training him up to the level of an average. I'd like some appreciation for that." Indeed, when I first joined, I was young and inexperienced and couldn't do much. But the person who really took the time to train me wasn't Bob. It was another supervisor. It irks me that he claims all the credit as if he alone was responsible, which is a disservice to another supervisor. But I get the feeling that making a scene would only play into his hands, so I bite my tongue. "Well, I guess being a regular employee until the end means you weren't the sharpest tool in the shed. Not much schooling with just a high school diploma, huh? I know he just wants to boast." I don't really care about that anymore, but he's speaking so loudly that other guests can hear him. This conversation is not pleasant for anyone to overhear, let alone understand. It might ruin the experience for guests who are here to enjoy their journey. I apologize profusely and leave the room. Then, I get a call from another employee. "Catherine is asking for you." Understood. Wondering what it could be, I head to where Catherine is enjoying the breeze on the terrace. "Catherine, what can I do for you?" "Oh, Alex, it's about breakfast tomorrow. Could we have something light? I have a luncheon where I'll be eating a lot." "Certainly. How about focaccia and minestrone?" "That sounds lovely. Lunch is going to be Korean cuisine, so a different taste for breakfast will be nice." Her cultured voice makes me forget about Bob's earlier words. I take a note to inform the kitchen and bow to Catherine once more. As I look up to leave the terrace, I see Susan and her 2 daughters enjoying the cool air. "Look, seagulls." One of the daughters is delightedly pointing at the seagulls flying over. Such a sight is somehow comforting. It's indeed rare to see seagulls here. As I gazed around, it seemed Susan had noticed me. She gave me a warm, friendly smile. "Alex, I don't know what kind of work my husband did here, but today's view and service are top-notch." "I'm glad to hear that. Please enjoy your day." The best part of the job is making the guests happy. I'm really glad to see Susan and her daughters enjoying themselves. While I'm having this conversation, Bob comes over. "Seagulls fly here every day. Nothing special about that." Seeing their father's nitpicking, the daughters shrug and run through the corridor, leaving the terrace. I'm about to leave too when Bob glares at me and I freeze in place. Really, such a beautiful view wasted. Susan sighed. "I have something to tell you." What is it?" "I want to enroll Nikki in a ballet company in France once she graduates middle school. It's been her dream to become a professional, and she's worked so hard for it. We've got an offer from a ballet company, and I want to take advantage of this opportunity for her." Nikki must be the older daughter. Bob looks surprised but then nods. She's already in her 2nd year of middle school and has matured quite a bit. Why not? Nikki is ready to take on the world. Susan turned her gaze to me upon hearing that. Just that means she'd be a high school dropout, but what Nikki is aiming to do is a respectable job, isn't it? Huh? Oh, she's practiced ballet diligently for that, right? Nikki's got an offer from a pro, so even without high school, she could make it work. Better to mix it up with adults while she's young and hold her own. As parents, we could be proud of that. Bob's words made Susan nod and then clear her throat with a little cough. Couldn't the same be said about you, Alex? Huh? You two graduated from middle school and joined this company, and surely worked hard, right? Isn't it the same as Nikki? I was taken aback by her words, finally realizing Susan was defending me. No, Nikki is different, right? She's been practicing ballet every day since elementary. That's not the same as someone who just played around through middle school. Then, Catherine, who had been quietly observing, came forward. Excuse me, may I have a word? The two looked surprised at the elegant woman who had interjected. Catherine is a regular since this fiscal year, so Bob wouldn't know her. And you are just a regular customer who loves this train. I've been overhearing your conversation. May I join in for a moment? She took out her business card and handed it to Bob. Bob looked at it with obvious suspicion, but Catherine, unbothered by his gaze, began to speak. I use this train when I can get away from mine. It's been a year, so I've had many talks with Alex. I had no idea where Catherine was going with this. As I listened quietly, her previously calm face became stern. I'd like you to correct what you said earlier about Alex playing around until middle school. He was diligent in his studies and wanted a career in hospitality, but had to work after a fire at home. Even without knowing his past, anyone can see how well he studied hospitality by his service. So your statement is incorrect. Bob was visibly shaken by being directly called out. I get that you like Alex, but in the end, he was just a regular employee until retirement. Don't compare him to my daughter. Being appreciated by one customer means nothing. Unless you get something like the Special Employee Award, like I did, you can claim to have worked hard. Catherine remained undaunted by Bob's outburst, maintaining her composure. He's got one, you know. What? You might not know since you retired last year, but Alex has received an honor even higher than the Special Employee Award, the Honorary Employee Award. At this, Bob began to panic. What? That can't be. Alex, of all people. It's true. Bob's loud denial was met with a young crew member's voice from the entrance of the terrace. Alex has been recognized for his long service and meticulous work, chosen for the Honorary Employee Award, which is given only once every 10 years. Hearing this, Bob started trembling. Catherine smiled at the young crew member and then turned back to Bob. Still think he hasn't worked hard? Education doesn't matter, effort is effort. See, Bob, it's clear now. Stop being mean and apologize to Alex. Susan gently stroked Bob's quivering back, but he just shook his head. Why, Bob, I saw how you've been today. It's not just now. You've always treated Alex like this, haven't you? It might be too late for apologies, but just be honest and say sorry. No. Why should I have to apologize? But Bob refused to apologize. It can't be helped then. Susan pulled out a piece of paper from her pocket. We're getting a divorce. I can keep living with someone like you. I was going to bring it up after this trip, but I can't bear it anymore. The paper she pulled out was a divorce form. Don't say that. Don't do this to me. Bob collapsed to his knees, clinging to Susan's feet. You've always bragged about that Special Employee Award, but it turns out most long-serving employees get it. You never mentioned it, but I knew your colleagues who retired with you got it too, and you bragged so much about it. As Susan started to speak, Bob tried desperately to stop her. I'll apologize. I'm sorry. Bob stood up, turned to me, and bowed deeply. I'm sorry for everything I've said. As Susan said, an apology at this point might seem too late. Still, it felt like a bit of a long-standing burden had been lifted. I've had hard times working here, but also many good ones. I thought today would be the best day, with regular operations and customers who love this train. But seeing Bob and remembering what he's always said made it hard. Why did I have to hear all this on my last day? But now that you've apologized, I feel a bit better. Thank you both very much. I thanked Susan and Catherine, and they nodded contentedly. By the way, Alex has bought one of my ends, and he'll become the new owner next spring. Catherine spoke with her black hair flowing. At these words, Bob's face went pale. Susan exclaimed in admiration. You have your next life all planned out, which is wonderful. This man here just sits in front of the TV all day since retirement, and his retirement pay was nothing to speak of, but it doesn't matter to me. I have my savings from when I worked, so it'll be fine after the divorce. Bob looked startled by this revelation. We're not getting divorced now, are we? I apologized. Oh, did I say that? I'm going to live in France with Nikki and Maria. like I said, money won't be an issue. It was true that just because he apologized didn't mean they weren't getting divorced. Alex, I'm sorry to ask, but can we get another room? I don't want to be in the same room as this man. Jess, I'll arrange it right away. And with that, leaving a completely deflated Bob behind, the couple got separate rooms and left the train at the station the next morning. Despite the upheaval, I ended my last day of work feeling refreshed. Alex, you've worked so hard until now. As I stepped off the train at the station, the other crew members presented me with a bouquet of flowers. I remembered there was no such arrangement when Bob retired. This bouquet is a testament to Alex's meticulous work and the kindness he has shown to all the crew members. We haven't given a bouquet to the former department head, you know. Surprised, a crew member whispered that to me. Holding the bouquet, I felt as if all my efforts had been recognized, and I couldn't help but tear up. Thank you, I'm really glad I was a crew member here. As I move on to run the inn, I intend to never forget the spirit of hospitality and to make the most of what I've learned as a crew member on the sleeper train. Resting my head against the window, swaying with the rhythm of the train, I just gaze out at the scenery as the buildings turn into greenery. Today is the day I moved to an unfamiliar rural town. I'm a 35-year-old office worker, employed in research. I work at a pharmaceutical company, part of the development research department. Our department is moving to a branch in the countryside, so all of us are being transferred. That's why I'm moving to the countryside. Born and raised in the city, this is my first time living in the countryside. Far from being excited, I'm weighed down by the thought of the inconveniences to come, being so used to the conveniences of city life. With these feelings, I arrived in this town. Now, several months later, I'm finally getting used to commuting to the new lab. As expected, this is a rural town with nothing much around, but the huge lab here is more convenient than the small one at our city headquarters. Still, life here is inconvenient. No convenience store nearby for a quick snack, and if I run out of household items, it's a 30-minute drive to the nearest supermarket. I'm certainly feeling a bit weary of this lifestyle. And lately, this fatigue isn't just physical but mental as well. The reason isn't just this rural town, but something else. It's the recent change in our department head, Tyson. Hey, John, you're staying late today. Again today. Can't be helped. I'm tied up with entertaining clients. There's a report I need to submit to headquarters by tomorrow. You get it, right? But that report needs your review before sending, right? Just leave it. Entertaining clients is more important. Entertaining. You've just been bar hopping with locals lately. Did you say something? Don't you know what could happen to you in this town if you defy me? Yes. Since the boss's oversight has diminished, Tyson has become quite tyrannical since moving here. Back at headquarters, he was unremarkable, quiet, not particularly capable, but harmless. Does a change of environment bring out a person's true nature? Unreasonable scolding, nonsensical instructions. Yet, all of us, my colleagues, juniors, even my seniors, had no choice but to silently comply. Sigh, tired again today. Walking down a large, solitary road, I stopped by a small, privately owned store before heading home. There are fields on both sides, and the smell of earth wafts with every breeze. With no convenience store nearby for a late-night snack, visiting this shop has become part of my daily routine after work. Well, hello, welcome, John. A slightly older woman greets me with a smile. Hard at work again today. You really put in the effort, don't you? She says as she hands me a bag, and I always make sure to thank her before taking it. Thank you. Come again soon. Cicadas buzzed, and a breeze rustled through. The sun had tilted further since earlier, beginning to darken the sky. It's a good 30-minute walk home, so I opened one of the beers I just bought. When opening the can, it made a satisfying sound. Then I sighed and took a gulp. Ah, that's good. Lately, I've been thinking a lot. I enjoy my daily research, but I wonder if it's worth coming to such a remote rural area for it. Tyson spends his days bar hopping with locals and often comes in hungover, useless at work. While covering for Tyson and enduring his unreasonable anger, I spend my days solely focused on research. On my days off, I just laze around, fiddling with my phone, not going anywhere. In this lonely rural town, without a girlfriend or friends, there's too little to do alone. Is this really how my life should be? At 35, such concerns have risen. The next day, feeling well rested for the first time in a while, I woke up refreshed and grabbed my phone. What? That moment, I took my breath away. It was already 10 a.m. Oh no, I overslept. Panic set in, and I quickly called the lab, where my colleague Richard answered. Hello, it's John. Sorry, I overslept. Is Tyson there? Hey, good morning. Nah, Tyson's not coming today. Sounds like he's hungover. Got it, sorry, I'm on my way now. Just leave my work. Nah, it's cool. Why don't you take the day off? What? You've been looking down lately. Probably tired. Take a break today. I've got your work covered. Taking my colleague's advice, I decided to skip work for the day. When was the last time skipped work? But what to do now? I was not even sleepy anymore. As I opened the curtains, thinking this, the sunlit mountains came into view. Huh? The mountains. Suddenly inspired, I quickly packed a towel and water in my backpack and set out for a hike. This is the first time I'm doing something like this since I came here. The air tastes good. Breathing deeply into greenery feels incredibly refreshing. I felt as if my constant complaints and gloominess were being replaced by the clean air. With a youthful spirit, I continued walking, aiming to go as far as I could. Rustling grass. Crunching soil. Amid these sounds, whoosh, I heard something like a fall. What was that? Rushing towards the sound, I found a woman in a tattered state, huddled on the ground. Wow, my shout echoed in response to the scene. Are you okay? Are you alive? Can you get up? I kept calling out desperately. Responding to my voice, the woman slowly opened her eyes. Oh, you're awake. When the woman noticed me, she seemed flustered and whispered in a weak voice, I'm okay. The woman forcefully sat up, said, in a soft voice, and held her ankle with her hand. Does your ankle hurt? Just a moment, please. I took out a first aid kit from my backpack and got out some ointment and bandages. I'll do some first aid. I applied the ointment to her ankle, used a nearby twig as a splint, and wrapped it with a bandage. There, that should do for now. Thank you so much. I was surprised when I heard a noise and then saw you sliding down from above and curled up here. I slipped on the path up there and, before I knew it, I had slid down here. That was close. She kept thanking me over and over, grateful I happened to pass by. Thank you so much. My name is Maria. I'm John. If you don't mind, I can take you to the hospital. I can't possibly ask you to do that. I can walk by myself. Ouch. See, you're still in pain. You can't walk like that. Don't force yourself. And don't mind if I smell a bit sweaty. As I said this and squatted down to let her climb on my back, Maria hesitantly got on. I can't believe you're doing all this for me. I'm so sorry. No worries. Carrying her on my back, supporting the backpack with my stomach, we slowly descended the mountain, chatting about various things. Maria had also moved from the city, and today she had taken a day off before starting a new job to visit this mountain. We especially hit it off talking about the differences between city and rural life. Eventually, our conversation shifted to more personal topics. Do you work at that big research lab? Yes, I do. She looked surprised. I moved here after our department transferred from the headquarters. Is that so? After thinking for a bit, she asked me another question. How is your job? Well, I've gotten used to the new workplace, but actually, my boss, his personality has changed lately, and it's been tough. Haha. I ended up telling Maria about how my boss had changed since moving here. How he started acting superior as if he was the top dog, looking down on his subordinates, not doing any work, and using company money to go bar hopping with locals under the guise of business entertainment. It had been a while since I talked to someone outside of work, so I accidentally shared more than I intended. Maria listened quietly and said, "That sounds tough." Feeling I had overshared, I quickly added, "I've been feeling down lately, but coming to the mountain today made me feel refreshed. It's like I can now focus on working together with everyone. Thank you for listening." After our talk, I carried her down the mountain in silence and took her to a small hospital at the foot of the mountain. She assured me she could take a taxi home, so I left. I thought waiting might scare her. By the time I realized, it was already evening. It had been a while since I felt this uplifted in the evening. Thinking of Maria's smile made me feel refreshed on my way home. In the following weeks, life continued as usual, with my work, looking after my juniors, and covering for Tyson. I was getting used to life here, and the warmth of the small rural community grew on me. The kindness in a rural town is something you don't often find in the city. Then, one day, I got a sudden call from headquarters. Had they found out I skipped work to go hiking? Feeling anxious about possibly being fired, I headed to the city. Seeing the towering skyscrapers after a long time made my heart flutter. When I lived there, I never noticed, but the air felt like it was mixed with various things, making my nose feel stuffed. With my heartbeat racing in fear, I calmed myself as I visited the CEO's office at the headquarters. "Excuse me." As I entered, the CEO greeted me with a smile. "Hey, long time no see, John. Have you lost some weight?" Seeing the CEO as usual confused me. I had been expecting to be fired, so it felt like unexpected. The CEO engaged in some small talk for a while, and I went along with it. The main topic didn't seem to come up. What was this meeting about, after all? Just as I was wondering, there was a knock on the door. "Come in." The CEO responded, and the door swung open energetically. To my surprise, the woman who entered was Maria, the one who had injured her foot on the mountain. "Wait, aren't you the person from that time? Why are you here?" Surprised, I stared at her as she blushed and shyly said, "I'm sorry about the other day." The CEO, addressing Maria, urged her, "Come here." While I stood there with a puzzled look, Maria cleared her throat just like the CEO and began to speak. "Thank you for helping me that day. My injury has completely healed, thanks to you. I apologize for the late introduction, but I'm Maria, the CEO's daughter." "CEO's daughter? Why were you in that town?" "So, you hadn't heard. That confirms what I said was true." "That's right." Lost in their conversation, I struggled to follow. "Tyson is no good anymore. There's no information sharing at all." "Indeed. Excuse me." Unable to hold back, I interrupted, and Maria smiled at me. "Actually, I was supposed to join the development research department in that town, but I injured my foot and had to return home for recovery. I had told Tyson to convey this to everyone, including you, but it seems no one was informed." "Yes, I heard nothing about it. I brought up the need for reform to the CEO right after hearing about the department's situation from you." "That's what I wanted to hear from you," the CEO added. "Is that so? But why me?" "Because your attitude towards work is admirable." "Really? What you shared while carrying me mirrored what my mother used to say." The CEO nodded at Maria's words. "Cherish unity, as you said. It's similar to my late wife's philosophy. She passed away 25 years ago from an illness. It was the first time I felt like my heart was torn out. Since then, I've immersed myself in work. Maybe to recover. I've been working to reduce the number of families experiencing what my daughter and I went through, increasing lives saved by medicine. So, our company's foundation is built on my wife's words. Cherish unity. The people waiting for our medicine are not strangers. They share our fate. I see. Which brings me to this. I want you to take over as head of the Development Research Department. Hearing this, I felt a shock as if struck by lightning. I'm honored, but why? I was so flustered that I repeated the same question, then embarrassedly shut my mouth. The Development Research Department is the heart of our company. I want someone who sees helping people as natural and shares my vision to lead it. The CEO smiled warmly, a soft expression I felt I was seeing for the first time. I felt a surge of energy welling up inside me and simply bowed my head. I'll help too. Let's work together. See you later then. We'll take care of the formal procedures another day. As I was about to leave the room, saying thank you in response to the CEO's words, I heard a clearing of the throat. And as a father, thank you for helping my daughter. I'm truly grateful. Things will get busy, but when you have time, I'd like to properly thank you. The CEO bowed slowly. Don't do that. Please raise your head. I only did what anyone would do as a person. Upon hearing my words, the CEO slowly raised his head, looked into my eyes, and said thank you again. I bowed to the CEO and left his office with Maria. Well, I never imagined it would turn out like this. I just gazed out at the view of the buildings turning into greenery. I was reminded of the day I moved. But unlike that day, Maria was now beside me, and I had an important mission of reform ahead. It's going to be busy, but at least it's goodbye to those days of aimlessly following a superior. I felt a passion surging inside me, warming me up. It's been a while since I've felt this way, perhaps since I was a new employee. I want to help people. That's why I chose this job and this company, drawn by the CEO's character. I had always wondered if it was the right choice, but now I realize it's not about validating that choice, but about making it right. I'll continue to devote myself to research for others. The future surely looks bright. Squinting at the dazzling sunset for a moment, the rural town came into view. I'm looking forward to the future. Upon hearing Maria's words, I slowly nodded in agreement. After working for 5 years since graduating, I received a postcard announcing a high school reunion. I realized I had never attended any reunions since graduation. I am Jacob. Since my university was in the Midwest, I decided to work for a consulting firm in the same area. It takes more than 2 hours to fly to my hometown, so I rarely go back to my parents' house. So I never attended any of my junior high or high school reunions. I've just finished work, so this might be a good opportunity. So I decided to attend this time. I work for a consulting firm specializing in hospitality businesses like hotels, inns, bed and breakfasts, and guest houses. My day starts with checking the operational and booking status of the hotels I manage. Analyzing these figures is a critical part of my job. After that, I have a meeting with the owner or manager at the hotel I'm in charge of. It is also an important job to actually go to the hotel and check on the employees and the condition of the hotel's facilities. Then, while having a meeting with the person in charge of the hotel, we come up with new plans and strategies together. Once we have detailed improvements and new plans, etc., I return to the company and create a formal proposal. Once the proposal is completed, I have another meeting at the hotel. My job involves visiting accommodation facilities throughout Japan throughout the year, so perhaps the best way to describe it would be to travel from place to place. July and August are the summer holidays, so accommodations are busy. On the other hand, consulting jobs get busier after summer vacation and into winter vacation. I thought I would be able to attend a class reunion in August and also go home. On the day of the reunion, when I entered the venue, half of the class had already gathered. "Hey, long time no see." Approaching with a beaming smile was Bob. "Oh, long time no see. How have you been?" Bob and I were doubles partners in the table tennis club during high school. As we caught up with each other's recent happenings, a few girls gathered around us. "Hi." Just then, my eyes met with one of the women. "Jacob, it's been a while, hasn't it?" The one who spoke first was Amelia. Actually, she was my high school girlfriend. I went to a university in the Midwest, and Amelia attended a local community college. Eventually, our long-distance relationship didn't last long. We parted somewhat spontaneously. "Oh, long time no see. How have you been?" "Yeah. Did you end up working in the Midwest, Jacob?" "Yes. What about you, Amelia?" After I graduated from community college, I worked for a little over 3 years at a French restaurant in the next town, but my grandmother's health hasn't been great, so now I'm helping at her restaurant. My parents live in a different state due to work and can't come here often, so I'm looking after Grandma and the restaurant. "I see. That must be tough. How's your grandma doing?" "She's much better recently." As we talked like this, the guys around started saying, "If Amelia's at the restaurant, maybe we should visit." I might go too, and the conversation got more animated. Then, "Wow, you guys want to go to that rundown restaurant? It's so old it could close down any time," a mean voice said. It was Abby. Abby's parents run a big company around here, and she's always been snobby and looked down on others, a type I've never liked. "Abby, that's not a nice way to talk." As I said this, Abby got even more agitated and continued her insults. "Well, it's true. The place is old and run down, and what if cockroaches come out there? No one would want to eat at such a poor-looking restaurant," she said condescendingly. Then Amelia retorted, "That's horrible. Don't say such irresponsible things." The area went silent for a moment. Abby, possibly drunk, said, "I'll get some drinks," and went to the bar area, poured herself a full glass of wine, and walked back towards us, glaring at Amelia. "Huh?" It seemed Abby wasn't done yet. "She doesn't have to come back." I was about to leave, when I tried to push her back by saying, "Amelia, let's move to the other table." Abby stumbled. "Oh no." I instinctively stepped in front of Amelia. Splash! The wine hit me right in the face. Ugh! I stood there, drenched in wine, stunned. Amelia hurriedly offered her handkerchief, saying, "Oh no, Jacob, are you okay?" Abby, obviously drunk, laughed. "Look at Jacob covered in wine. Ha ha ha, that's what you get for getting in my way," and then staggered off towards another table. The girls were like, "What?" Abby just left without apologizing. Typical self-centered behavior. Amidst this, Amelia got a towel from the staff for me. I cleaned the wine off my face and hair in the restroom, and when I came out, Amelia rushed over to me. "Thanks for this. I really appreciate you getting the towel." She then apologized, looking guilty. "Jacob, you shielded me from getting splashed. I'm sorry." No, it's not your fault at all." I smiled, trying to reassure her. "You always worry too much, Amelia, just like old times," I said, and she looked surprised for a moment, then smiled at me with the same kindness she always had. As the party was wrapping up and we were heading to the exit, she caught up with me. "Jacob, my grandma's place is nearby. Your shirt got stained, so why don't you stop by?" "Oh, but I don't want to impose," I said, though I was actually curious about her grandma's restaurant. "It's better to get the stain out quickly." "Well, I'll stop by for a bit." So we headed to her restaurant together. Along the way, she apologized again, I'm really sorry about this." "It's okay. You've apologized enough." I playfully tapped her on the head and laughed, and she laughed along. "Our shop is called Taylor," she said, pointing to a rather old building. "It looks pretty spacious." "Yeah, there are 6 private rooms for parties on the 2nd floor. It's fairly large." The restaurant was much bigger than I had imagined. When I entered the store, there were no customers and it was empty. Her grandmother is preparing food in the back. "Grandma, this is Jacob, a high school classmate." "Good evening, I'm Jacob. Sorry to bother." "Welcome. You were at the reunion together today." Her grandmother had the elegant and calm demeanor of a traditional woman. "Grandma, Jacob's shirt got stained with wine." "Oh dear, we need to treat that quickly. Jacob, can I take your shirt?" I took off my shirt and handed it to her. "Amelia, remember this too. Mix liquid oxygen bleach with baking soda powder and knead well. Once it turns into a paste, apply it to the stain with a toothbrush and tap it gently, making sure not to scrub. Then, pour a solution of citric acid dissolved in water over the stain. Finally, rinse thoroughly with water and dry it with a hairdryer." She explained as she worked, and quickly removed the stain. It was amazing. Like a professional cleaner. As I stood there amazed, Amelia handed me the dry shirt, saying, "Grandma's amazing." In the end, Abby didn't apologize even once. Amelia frowned. That's typical Abby. Even at this age, some things never change. As we talked about the reunion, her grandmother brought out beer and omelet. I was surprised when I took a bite. It was incredibly delicious. "This omelet is so fluffy and incredibly tasty." "Oh, I'm glad you think so. Feel free to eat as much as you want." Then, we were treated to stew and salmon grilled on magnolia leaves. Each dish was an absolute delicacy, flawlessly delicious. And not just tasty, but also elegantly presented. "Excuse me for asking, but despite such exquisite dishes, it seems like you don't have many customers." Grandma nodded in agreement, and Amelia said, "You're right. Maybe we should advertise more on social media in this day and age." She then said seriously, "We're really struggling with the business. Even though the cost of vegetables and seafood has skyrocketed, Grandma absolutely refuses to raise prices, and we don't have many customers." "I see, but you don't want to lose this place. If I lived in this town, I'd visit every day or every week. It's that good." They both seemed pleased when I told them this. I was thinking about what I could do for this restaurant. It must be fate that brought me here today. I wanted to help these 2 people who are having a trouble. That's it. An idea popped into my head. I work in consulting for hotels and inns, like bed and breakfasts and pensions. Maybe I could help with attracting customers to this place. I suggested, and she momentarily looked pleased, but then said, "Oh, but we're not in a position to afford consulting fees." Grandma also looked sad. "Leave that to me. I'll find a sponsor." "A sponsor?" "Yes. Partner with shopping malls or companies for sales or giveaway campaigns, including meal vouchers from this restaurant. Then ask customers who dine here to post on social media or food review sites, and offer them coupons to turn them into repeat customers. What do you think of this idea?" "I don't fully understand, but it sounds like a great plan." "Yes, I think so too." They both brightened up. "If this plan works and we double our customer base, I'll come back to talk about a consulting contract." I promised to bring potential sponsors soon and left the restaurant. I immediately picked a few of my company's business partners and proposed the idea. I invited the managers from these partners, along with their families, to dine there. Amelia and her grandmother's cooking pleased everyone. Soon, we got an offer for a partnership from a shopping center affiliated with a hotel chain. They wanted to use meal vouchers from Taylor as prizes for a lottery during a winter sale. We then created a website for the restaurant. I kept the design simple and showed Amelia how to update it. We also set up official social media accounts and posted various menu items. Wow, our dishes look delicious in these photos, Grandma said, peering at the cell phone. Then, travel agencies and hotels in the same prefecture began to offer lunch vouchers for Taylor as an optional service for their guests. A few months later, I was back at Taylor for a meeting. To my surprise, the president of a national hotel chain, Thomas, was there to meet us. "Nice to meet you, I'm Thomas. I actually dined here recently with my sister. The food was even better than the rave reviews online." Grandma smiled as she listened to the president. Amelia thanked him, saying, "Is that so? Thank you very much. However, the aging of the building does concern me. Wouldn't it be nice to remodel it, keeping a classic atmosphere but adding a touch of an in?" Thomas suggested. Indeed, such a remodel could attract even more customers. But Amelia looked a bit sad. "Yes, that's true. But until recently, we hardly had any customers. Our business is quite." Thomas then made an offer. "I know. How about this? My company could sponsor your restaurant and provide the remodeling. How does that sound?" "What?" We all exchanged surprised looks. Thomas continued, "Our hotel in the same prefecture would like to offer lunch at your restaurant to our guests. I've brought a remodeling design proposal. Here's the plan." The design he showed was elegant, emphasizing the warmth of wood, fitting for a fine dining establishment. I couldn't help but exclaim, "This is wonderful. It perfectly matches a refined and delicate taste of Taylor's dishes." I then asked for Amelia and her grandmother's opinions. "I think this offer is beneficial for both the restaurant and its future customers. What do you two think?" Amelia answered first. "I can think of a more gracious offer, right, Grandma?" "Yes, but is it really okay to take advantage of such a wonderful offer? I feel a bit guilty," Grandma said, looking at Thomas. Thomas reassured her, "No need to feel guilty at all. This is an investment for our company. I believe that Taylor's lunches will become a highlight of our services. I'm certain this restaurant will be hard to book in 6 months." Encouraged by Thomas's words, Grandma decided to accept the proposal. A year later, Taylor had transformed beyond recognition from its once rundown state into a beautifully renewed establishment. I love the calming atmosphere of this wood decor. Yeah, it's blissful to enjoy such delicious food in this soothing environment. The package deal combining a meal at Taylor with a hotel stay proved to be more popular than anticipated. Many customers returned, and now regulars were increasing, leading the restaurant to adopt a reservation-only system. Naturally, the number of chefs increased, and Grandma's recipes were being passed on to the younger cooks. Grandma, stimulated by the new environment, began coming up with more innovative recipes. Seeing the restaurant's success, the parents of the locally famous Abby, thinking that the restaurant business was profitable, opened a large restaurant next to Taylor. However, it was deserted and closed within a few months. The debt incurred became a burden, and it became well known locally that the once grand mansion of Abby's family was put up for sale. Abby's whereabouts and activities now remain unknown. As for me, I still hadn't mustered the courage to ask Amelia to start over, but I feel the day I'll make my second confession to her is close. I want to continue seeing Amelia and her grandmother's smiles forever.